In this video, we're going to talk about some of the common programming errors that a lot of you are making. Okay. So while my screen's doing something weird, so let's go back there. Okay. So, and again, I think we're having these errors. We're having lots of errors, but the compiler gives us reasonable error messages. These errors either do not give an error message, or the error messages, the error message that's given doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. So we're going to talk about these. The other thing that I would say, a developing problem we're getting is that as the programs get more complicated, and they're just going to get more complicated from here, the lack of organization in your code is starting to be a detriment to its readability and its functionality. Okay. So we talked before about scaffolding, putting in some comments to break up what you're going to be doing in your code. And some of you are very good at doing that still, and those programs tend to be very well structured. The others just try to type it all in and try to get it to work and then patch it however they can. They throw code at it and see what happens. And even if it works, it's not a good program. It's not likely to get a 10. Okay. It's not likely to be a 10 program. So, and this video is not about that in particular, but again, things like your defined variables. Put that section in every one of your programs. So I'm going to use it an int x in my examples. Okay. And further, go ahead and say what it's for. This is just a dummy variable, so it's not a big deal. Okay. So it's important that you put through. Okay. And when you define a new function, make sure that you put, what does this function expect? Okay. What are the preconditions for the function? What does it do? You know, those things are important to have as a comment block inside of your functions. We haven't talked about that yet, but we will. Okay. So the first error we have is a single equal sign versus a double equal sign. Okay. So a lot of us kind of use the single equal sign to mean both equality and assignment. Okay. In mathematics, there's only one equal sign, right? But in programming, there are two different concepts. So what we normally think of as equality is tested with the two equal signs. So an expression with two equal signs will return a true or false, whether what's on the left side is equal to what's on the right side. The single equal sign, on the other hand, is used for assignment. So let's do an example of that. So let's say I've got this int x I just created. I'm going to say x single equal to 10. Okay. What that's saying is, for this integer x, which we've just initialized, okay, so it's initialized, it's a 0, at least on our compiler. X refers to some address in memory that the operating system has given to our process, okay? Now I'm saying if at that memory address, put the value 10. That's what the equal sign is. Assign to variable x the value 10, okay? And if I were to see out that x, okay, it should give us the 10 back. So let's take a look. And it does. Okay. Now, if we make a mistake in this direction, and we've been doing a lot of Boolean expressions, I've seen people do this. I've done this myself because I'm just used to the double equal. Okay. Well, let's not do it there. Let's do it down here. Let's say x equals 20. Okay. And then we'll see out that. Okay. Our intention is that x is going to be equal to 20, but it's not. It's 10 both times. Okay. And that's because we're asking, this is saying x is given the value of 10. This is saying, is x equal to 20? And it returns false, but doesn't do anything else. Okay. It's so this could also happen if it's the first time you're setting the variable. Okay. And if we do this and go to run it, we just get a 0, right? It's like it never happened. Okay. So that's the bottom line. When you see this, it's like it never happened. Okay. So another issue that we have with this is if we're creating an if block, okay, where it needs to be checking for equality and we forget to do that. So let's set x equal to 10 again. Okay, and this time we're going to say if x is equal to 20. Only one equal sign. What that really should read is if x is assigned the value of 20. Okay. Then we're going to print. I can find my home keys. I don't know. Bingo. Doesn't matter. Okay. So the x single equal 20 is always going to be true. Okay. So whatever we have inside of here will, no matter what. Okay. So in this case, x does equal 20. So let's say if x equals 200. Okay. If x equals 200, print bingo. Okay. X does not equal 200, x equals 20. So this should not print. Okay. But when we run it, we're going to see a couple of issues. First issue, it printed bingo. Okay. So what it means is that this if statement is true no matter what, because I'm not asking a question. I'm telling it something. It seems like Python gives you an error when you do this. C++ doesn't tend to give errors. That's a problem. But there's a bigger issue here. I'm now printing out x at the bottom, and all of a sudden x is 200. Okay. That's guaranteed to give you inconsistent results in your code. Okay. So you have to watch for that. Okay. Just make sure that you keep a track of that. And then one thing I didn't put in here, but it's always an issue. Remember when you're doing ands and ors in compound Boolean expressions, make sure that it makes sense. If you have, if x is less than 0 and x is greater than 100, you didn't mean an and there, you meant an or. No value of x is both of those things. Okay. So if you're having trouble getting those compound statements to work, often I'll just switch the and to the or just to see if it makes a difference. Okay. Okay, so the other thing that people are doing sometimes is on a block statement, they're going to end it with a semicolon. Okay. So we can keep our x, but even the initial values. Okay. So let's say we have something like another if statement, or no, we could do a for statement here. Okay. I'm going to do a for int I equals 0 is less than 10 plus plus. And I'm going to see out and I need a semicolon there. I do need a semicolon there. I'm going to see out whatever key, it doesn't matter. I just want to see if there's more than one line here. Okay. And so let's run it correctly. So you run it correctly and it prints all that stuff like that. Okay. But if I change it by mistakenly putting a semicolon there, okay, I want this to give it an error, but it does not. Oh, it does. Oh, it gives a weird error. Okay. So let's look at that. The error it's giving us here is that because of the way I did this. So it ignores this entirely. This doesn't happen. Okay. It just takes us to here. And it's going to execute these two lines. Okay. But it doesn't like the value of that. So let's just print out X instead. Okay. Which should print out X. Okay. It does. It prints out X and it prints out the X's just one time. Okay. So I have a for loop that for all practical purposes should print this out, 10 times. But because I put the semicolon there, it's just going to ignore it. Okay. We're going to have a similar problem with a while. If we have a while x is less than 100, let's say, okay, which it certainly is. We can do that, and then we can do x plus plus. Okay, now I'll be curious what x is going to look like when we're done. Okay, so this one should start. So again, let's check it once correctly. Make sure we've got something that makes sense. Yeah, it's going to print out all the way up from 20 to 100. Okay, both of those lines. Okay. But again, if we go in and put a semicolon there, okay, no error. But when we run it, we're now in an infinite loop. Okay. So it didn't work, and it will be hard to track down why it didn't work. Okay. Um, so yeah, we're just kind of stuck in there. Okay. So it's not what you want. So don't put that semicolon there. It's going to be problematic for us for sure. Okay. Um, then the last error that people are doing is when you create a function. Okay, let's say we have a function that actually has a return type or has a pass by reference, although it doesn't matter. Have a void, I don't know, doesn't matter. My old friend Doublet, okay, which takes an int by reference called x. Okay, I'm going to just put it all up in here where I'm just going to say x is equal to 2 times x. That's all we're doing. Okay, so this program has side effects. Um, it's going to take whatever x is and it's going to make it double. Okay, so if I've got here x is equal to 10, and then I say double it x, okay, um, and then I say cout x. Okay, that's how it should be. This is the correct way to do this. So let's see how this works. Run it. X is now 20, right? But what I see people doing is when they call this, they're putting that type and the reference indicator there. Okay. And when you do that, you get an error message. It's not super useful. Okay. It tells us here that there's an expected primary expression before int. Okay. And that doesn't mean a lot to us. Okay. So that can be hard to figure out why that's happening. Okay. Again, the issue is that you put the types here. Okay. In fact, if we're going to do a prototype on this, I would have a semicolon here. Okay. And then when I define the function, I would say void double it int x. Okay. Then I would say x is equal to 2 times x. Okay. So I have int there and I have int there. Okay. I not, oh, I didn't fix that. That's the issue. I didn't fix it. Okay. So I don't have it here. This should just be an X. Okay. I was just talking about the prototype being different. Okay. So, undefined reference to double it. Okay. Wonder if the issue is. See if that fixes it. Yeah, that fixed it. I'd forgotten that. Okay. So you need the return type or the parameters input type here. Okay. And you need it when you define it down here. Okay. But you can't use it when you're making the call to the function. Okay. So I think those are the big errors we're having. Again, single equal versus double equal, putting a semicolon on an if or a while or a for statement block. Okay. And then including types and the ampersand when you're making a function call. Okay. It has to be there for the prototype, has to be there when you're defining it, but it can't be there in the function call itself. Okay. That and start putting some scaffolding into your program, and hopefully the quality will improve and you'll be less frustrated with this whole thing.